So I think well-intentioned people have talked about canceling the Olympics in Russia because there have literally just been like LGBT people beaten in the streets. Like, it's just terrible what's happening in Russia. And I think especially for a lot of gay people I've seen say this as well. But I think,
should also say beaten and in some cases killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of well-intentioned straight cis people at first are like, yes, obviously. Like, why would you want to have the Olympic Games in a country that is, beating gay people to death? And that's what I thought at first, for sure. And I hate when people say, and I've seen athletes, I hate how the first thing they say is like, for the athletes, because like, I don't know, man. If I was an athlete, and I know like Olympic athletes get shit on and they don't make a lot of money and they train so hard like their entire life to make it. But I'm also like, if somebody actually told me a boycott would work, I would like to think, I just don't like seeing like these like when I tweet gay people are being beaten to death and someone writes back, these athletes train for 4 years. I just want to like write back, gay people are being beaten to death. Like sports versus, I don't think that's good. I saw a female athlete, which really depressed me, on Chris Hayes, say something like there's no room for politics in sports. And I'm like, motherfucker, if it wasn't for Title IX, you wouldn't be on TV right now.
You know what I always think of, though? I think of if the black athletes who eventually did the Black Power sign in that really iconic photo, if they had boycotted, we wouldn't have ever seen that.
And that's what a lot of people are saying. So a couple things. I mean, number one, what I didn't think about is, remember when we covered the last Olympics and we talk about how, in London, it's just these giant sponsors that end up profiting from it. It's not actually the cities. A lot of times the local businesses get fucked. And these jobs that the Olympics supposedly create they end up being temporary anyway. So it's like, it's not even like Russia, like the Russian people are really going to profit from this. But here's the biggest thing about being a good ally is you have to listen. And someone tweeted me that essentially we're just sort of projecting our Western ideas onto Russia, where it's like, it's not up to us. Yeah. If the Russian queer community says to boycott, then we should boycott.
Well, actually, there was someone on All In with Chris last night, and I can't remember her name, but she's a journalist who reports on Russia, and she had really interesting insight where she was saying, so the fascist elements in Russia believe that homosexuality is a Western import. They literally believe that gayness would not exist without Western culture's influence.
Right.
So what that means is if there's a boycott of the Olympics, they will see that as further meddling by the West. It's not suddenly going to bring enlightenment to Russia. If anything, it's going to create more hostility towards homosexuality, which they see as an extension of the West. So a lot of LGBT people within Russia are saying a boycott would hurt more than it would help because it would just exacerbate that tension.
Yeah, for sure. And, obviously, like, there are also, like, gay athletes. And that's someone who I would empathize
And
for.
it was also, like, really scary to hear, like, Johnny Weir being interviewed and people asking him, like, are you afraid to wear flamboyant costumes when you're, like, walking from, like, your car to the stadium, you know?
Right.
And, like, that would be really scary if you were an LGBT athlete,
And somebody else on Twitter brought up to me the fact that by having it there, I mean, number one, who knows the repercussions, right? Like, they're already mad at gay people. If suddenly the Olympics aren't there.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. And people will think they're going to, like, lose money or, like, their cities aren't going to make as much money. Like, they're just going to be even more mad.
Well, that's why a lot of queer activists are like, we know you guys think you're helping.
Right.
But actually, if you don't come at all, it's going to make things, like, 1,000
It's like
times
you're,
worse.
like, abandoning us.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and I know you were saying that with politicians, but I just mean, like, people. Like, maybe people who didn't care about the gay thing are suddenly going to be like, like, oh, now these gay people are fucking us over. You know what I mean?
I know with everyone. I didn't say politicians.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I wanted to say is, and a bunch of you guys tweeted some version of this, what I would like to see is every fucking athlete, gay or not, I want to see, like, pride flags on the podium.
That would be really nice. I think that is the most powerful and the most helpful. Can you imagine
have it there and show solidarity?
Being an LGBT person in Russia, perhaps too afraid to actually be, out and proud and be an activist because you've seen all of these terrible things happening, and then you're watching the Olympics, and somebody like pulls out the gay pride flag. Like that would
on
be
your turf.
Incredibly powerful moment, and it would really instill hope in activists in Russia.
Yeah, and so why
but
not?
A lot of athletes are really hesitant to be political. Even they're very much aware that they could get in trouble. It takes an enormous amount of bravery to be political if you're an athlete in the Olympics.
Yeah, and I mean, but some of our best...
You can lose sponsorships if you do that.
Oh, I know. I mean, Muhammad Ali. Some of the best... Some of our biggest heroes in sports now have been because of political statements.
But what would also be really... helpful is, unfortunately, a lot of the times the United States media doesn't become interested in cultural stories until the Olympics is being held.
Right.
So a lot of outlets that have thus far not been covering the LGBT oppression in Russia, it's more likely that story will get coverage now, and it will get coverage on an international level. So that is good.
Yep.
If I'm really fishing for a silver lining here.
Yeah, and seriously, I mean, a lot of people wrote that to me where they're like, keep attention on them.
Yeah.
This will keep attention on them.
Shame them until Putin literally has no other option than to be like, okay, we have to reverse policy on this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've seen what happens when you try to tough guy down to, people like Putin or people like America, like us.
Well, it can't just be the West. It can't just be the West telling Putin to do it, because Putin, is fuck off to everything we want him to do, So, but if it's an international sort of pressure and he feels like he's a man without a country, then eventually, hopefully.
I mean, it could actually be really big,
Yeah.
So those are my thoughts. / the LGBT people who were tweeting me. Thank you for that. I definitely wanted your take before I tried to, hero it.